Welcome to Fast Pace, the new growth, leadership and management podcast featuring Josh Phegan and Dean Mackie. We wanted to peel back the layers on what happens in the world of fast-paced real estate agencies, from new leadership models to the management challenges we all face each day. This is about a new era in the estate agency sector. Rapid changes to business models, service lines, remuneration and growth present the greatest opportunities that we've ever seen. Sit back, get inspired, grow your skills and reimagine what's possible with Fast Pace. Every Friday, wherever you get your podcasts, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Josh Phegan Digital.
One of the important components for any real estate practitioner, and particularly as a business owner and a leader, is to make sure that you've got core messaging and that you're in a position that you've got the same message over and over and over again to keep on supporting it and driving it. And there's an old school saying that, sometimes people need to hear something 14 times to hear it for the very first time. Dean, as a leader, how do you determine core messaging? I know there are things at certain times of the year as we close out this year, there'll be people that will be talking about when are they launching next year? When is the office open? When are they doing their first lot of open for inspections? When are they doing their first lot of auctions? And that's a very much a sales-based strategy, to get people really focused and to make sure that they drive the energy and the enthusiasm of their sales teams in the closeout of a quarter to make sure that the next quarter really gets off to a win. And I think that literally the lesson is that for leaders, how often can they drive a core message? Is it just when it's needed? Are there very specific messaging that you drive throughout the course of the year? And who inside of your business, Dean, at a leadership level is in charge of driving those core messages? Is it just one person and everyone else has to deliver it? Or is there a number of people that come together to collaborate in that environment? What are your thoughts about this messaging idea?
Yeah, good chat. I think messaging is really important. I think if you don't have core themes running through your business on things that are priorities for the business, then the business just gets off track pretty quickly and everyone's just sort of doing their own thing. So the question is how can you pull everybody back together so everyone's rowing in the same direction at the same time? You and I have spoken about in the past that if you imagine we're in a rowing boat and you've got everybody's oars all rowing in the water at the same time in the same direction, then you're quite powerful. You get stuff done really quickly, But if you don't have your core messaging right, and it comes down to really, a lot of the making sure we understand the why, not the how and the what. Because what I find is where you get disagreement is when you sort of drop down into detail that everyone's going to have a different opinion about certain parts of that detail. So I'll come back and I'll give you an example of this, a really life example in a moment. But I sort of take that analogy and go, well, you've got to become really aware as a leader if you're getting core messaging out that culturally your team have to understand that you're a business that is going to drive key messaging and you do expect people to act together to create scale and effectiveness for everybody's benefit, right? Because if you've got people sitting in that boat who just, and you can see them, the ones who have their oars, they have their oars out of the water. Yeah, that's the ones you got to watch as well. They might have sneaky little oar out. You think they're in, but they're not. Yeah. But they're just coming along for the ride. Well, that's actually, not good either. And you'll see those ones. And then the other ones who, they're a bit more obvious, the ones that are rowing against it. Right. So I think it's an important thing. If you want to get core messaging through culturally, you've got to get alignment around your why before you get into your how and what. And that's probably a really big message for me. And sometimes the why you think as a leader that you've got the message across on the why and to be honest with you often haven't, because often people aren't really dialing into it until it's relevant for them. And we've seen quite a bit of transformation in our team, particularly in the last couple of years, particularly around their ability to use technology and understand digital. But that said, when the market was really good, a lot of people just didn't have any need to dial into it, right? They're like, yeah, it's good, but, I'm going pretty well at the moment, so I just want to stay. And that's fair enough too, right? So we worked really, really hard to build infrastructure and prove our technology and results. But it's only now, as the market has changed, that you've got people now leaning into the conversation saying, how does that work again? I need to know more about it because guess what? I'm seeing some of these other guys over here getting results that at the moment I probably need a bit of help, right? So
I learned the power of this when we did all of these stuff through the pandemic, right? That there were different points in that when legislation had changed or, things that we were and weren't allowed to do, that all of a sudden we got really key on a core message right now. So this is what to say to people. Yeah. This is our first round of opens. This is when we're going to do that.
Yeah, all of that. And so making sure, and we did, that's right. We went through and we said, okay, everybody en masse, let's go, right? Because then everyone had a clear message that rather than trying to work it out themselves and go, gosh, this is really too hard, I don't know what to do, just make it really clear and simple, because that's what agents and teams want you to do, is make it simple so they can get back to what they do best, right? So coming back to, that whole conversation of messaging, getting people clear about the how and the what's really important. So I sort of look at it where we're driving at the moment, Josh, through a set of what we call guiding principles. So we've had them in our business for 15 years. They were built by the team for the team to actually learn how to communicate better with each other. And when I say communicate, it's sort of got the rules of engagement. This is how it works. This is what happens with data. This is what happens when you do that. Here are the rules if you list in over there. All of these little bits and pieces, because otherwise what you do is you've got people who are all making up different rules as they go. So the big thing for us at the moment as we're growing network is to get people aligned culturally on how they behave and communicate with each other. So the messaging on that has to be really consistent. So to ask you, how do you drive it through, your questions earlier around driving it through and how many people and all that sort of stuff. So we went back, we dusted it all off. We had a critical team go through, review it, dust it off. Is it still relevant? What do we have to add? What do we have to change? Go through a whole process of collaboration. We go, okay, cool. We actually now think we're back to a point where this is actually a really good, up-to-date working document for the whole network. So that's been going on for a little bit of time. So now tomorrow we meet. We've got a collaboration meeting. We'll go through and we'll just go do the last sign-off piece. Marketing team will come in and think, okay, how are we going to dust this off? What are some of the marketing elements we can create off the back of this to have an ongoing piece of message? What is going to be the roles and responsibilities of our sales management and our sales operations teams in getting communication through to the teams? Firstly, it's not just a matter of turning up to a meeting and saying, here's the document, read it, good luck. There's going to be a series of things that go on that are going to make sure that we get to the end of it and everybody's got a complete understanding of it and they sign off and go, yeah, I actually get it and understand it. And now I'm going to be held accountable to it, right? So there's layers of this thing. And then it's not, that's not the job just done. Then there's going to be constant stuff that comes up where some people didn't pay as much attention as the others. And then some people go, so, there's a whole cultural shift that's going to go on for that. Now, if we just put it out there, set and forget and said, here you go and read it, that's not core messaging. You've got to think about the layers at which, and also the change at which some people are going to not like some of those things because some people want to be able to make up their own rules, right? On how they deal with that equation. Although that might not suit me, the fact that now you're going to say to me, if I actually don't make sure that I contact someone in my database after 3 or 6 months, then it's going to go back into a pool as an orphan data and anyone can get, it changes behavior. Well, that's fine. You've got to just talk to your customers, right? If you talk to your customers and you contact them, you'll be fine. If you don't, then you can't just put your arms around them and expect for the customer not to be serviced by Di Jones, right? So that's not easy for some people to hear if they're used to being able to go, I'm going to put an amber claim around people, and if I haven't spoken to them for 10 years, they're still my customer, right? So that's cultural shift. And so when you get key messaging about why is that important for the business, why is that important for everybody's success? Why is that important for the customer? Why, all of those things is, so you got to get back to that, and then the how and what you can drive. So I think what I'm saying to you is it depends how important the messaging is and how complex and detailed it is. But it's also, I think what's also important, it's a point I was going to make earlier, which we skipped past, was to say timing is really important. So when I was talking to agents about timing on the core messaging on some key stuff we're doing in the tech and digital space, it just was landing on deaf ears because it was just wrong timing. So I think with your core messaging, whether it be tactical decisions or whatever, timing's got to be right. It's got to be well thought through. You've got to make sure everyone's on the same page, and you've got to make sure you have execution and follow through.
Sometimes is just the simplification of a message just killer?
Yeah.
We're just doing this.
Yeah.
So, when our business stopped during that pandemic, I said to the guys, 30 Zooms a week, everyone keeps their jobs.
Yeah. Below
30, we all lose them.
Yeah.
And it was then everyone's, okay, great. And we got 35 in the first week. Everyone's like, oh, great, we got jobs. And so that's that whole thing is okay, our big goal right now is what's the core message? When is your business starting in 2023? When's the first weekend of opens? When's the first one of auctions? That's a really simple sales example. In the PM example, you say, okay, great. What are we going to have empty over Christmas? How do we make sure we get a tenant in now? That's just a core message strategy approach. Just do that. And sometimes a business might be that minimal where you're just aiming at something so small as a target, but it's really critical for ongoing operational success.
Oh, I get it. Today I left a meeting and I left the meeting saying, hey, if you just want to boil that whole meeting down to some key things, I just said that our focus is how do we simplify the business of agency to make you more effective and productive, and how do I generate leads? Right. That's the only problem I wake up trying to solve every day. Right. And when I say it in that simple terms, we go, oh, I get that. They want to know, okay, how and what and whatever, but that's really what it's about. How do we simplify the business of agency to make you more effective and deliver a better result and to unlock more for you? And how do we generate more leads based upon a collaborative approach, right? People go, oh, that makes sense. So you are right, simplifying the message. And I think one thing I'd say about core messaging is, and you're spot on, and like I said before, people disagree about the minutiae and the detail. There's always going to be disagreement around that. The key thing is chunk it right up to the point where you go, what is our intention here and what are we trying to achieve? And if you can get people to agree philosophically on the higher intention, right, then the detail you can actually work through. And if you get people bogged down in the detail, bring it all the way back up to your core messaging. So if you get really strong, good core messaging, it becomes your anchor point to then unblock resistance and change.